What if the rustiest blade in your house, the one leaning behind a closet door, or sitting in a box you have not opened since the funeral, is worth more than everything else in that room? 10 old weapons have quietly sold for hundreds, some for thousands, and the one most likely to be in your own drawer is waiting at number 1. Let us find out if it is yours. Here is the truth about a blade that has been sitting in the same spot for 40 years. You stopped seeing it the day it became part of the house. It went from an object to a fixture, something your father brought home, or your grandfather left behind, and nobody ever knew what to do with it, and a fixture does not get appraised. In 20 years of buying estate collections, I have watched families hand over entire militaria collections for scrap prices at folding tables, not because they were careless, but because someone told them, old blades are just old blades. They were wrong. The mark stamped into the flat of the blade, the signature hidden under the handle, whether the scabbard still matches, those details are deciding the value of what leans in your closet, and the buyer at the estate table will never explain them to you. Number 10. A rusty bayonet with a dull blade and a leather scabbard cracked with age. It looks like something you would carry to the scrapyard. Fair enough. Most people see a piece of dirty metal and a rotten sheath. But a World War I US Army bayonet with its original scabbard recently sold for $160. A Civil War Remington Zouave saber bayonet with its brass guard and leather sheath brings considerably more. Here is the tell most families miss. The scabbard is at least half the value. A bayonet without its scabbard is an orphan. A bayonet with a matching scabbard, especially one carrying unit stamps or arsenal marks, is a documented piece of history. Look for stampings on the metal throat of the scabbard and compare them to any numbers on the blade. If they match, the two pieces came home together. I have watched scabbards get thrown out as worthless leather while the blade was kept. The leather was the money. Number 9. Number 9. A curved sword in a green or brown metal scabbard. Your grandfather brought it home from the Pacific in 1945, and it has been leaning in a closet ever since. To a modern eye, it looks like a mass-produced military souvenir. Here is what nobody told the family. Thousands of Japanese swords brought home by American veterans after World War II are not war souvenirs at all. Many contain antique blades, some centuries old, that were mounted in military fittings for the war. A standard WE officer's sword, with a signed tang, sells for around $925. A vintage samurai blade, with its original signature, sold at auction for $1,200. But if the blade inside those wartime fittings is a traditionally forged antique, the value jumps to thousands or tens of thousands. Here is your test. Carefully remove the handle pin and slide the blade free. Look at the flat of the tang, the unpolished metal hidden under the grip. A signature in Japanese characters means the smith put his name on his work. An arsenal stamp near the blade collar means WE production. A signed tang with no arsenal stamp often points to an older blade remounted for the war. Do not polish the blade. Do not oil the tang. Bring it as it sits. I have watched a family sell a WE closet sword for $50 at a garage sale. The blade inside was 200 years old. Number 8. Number 8. An old folding pocket knife. The handle is worn smooth. One blade might be chipped, and the whole thing sits in a kitchen drawer next to the rubber bands. It looks like a $5 yard sale knife. That instinct is expensive. Because if the tang stamp reads case-tested XX, you are holding a knife made between 1920 and 1940, and examples in good condition bring $100 to $400 depending on the pattern. A Winchester pocket knife from the same era runs $250 and up. A Remington bullet knife in stagbone carries even more. Here is how you read it. Open the main blade and look at the tang, the flat metal section between the blade and the handle. The stamp dates the knife. Case-tested XX means 1920 to 1940. Case XX alone means 1940 to 1964. A system of dots stamped beside the name dates later production to the exact year. That stamp is a clock, and a $400 knife looks exactly like a $5 knife until you read it. Number 7. Number 7, and here I have to slow you down, because this is the most common mistake I see. A decorative sword on a wall or in a closet that someone assumes is an antique because it looks old. Here is the honest truth, and I respect you too much to dress it up. Most old swords found in American homes are reproductions, wall hangers, or fraternal ceremony swords worth $20 to $200. Masonic swords, Knights of Pythias swords, and imported decorative blades account for the majority of what I see at estate tables. They were never carried into battle, and they are not worth a battle price. Now here is why I tell you this before the top 5. You need to know what is not valuable, so you can recognize what is. The tell is the blade. A genuine fighting blade has a tempered edge, a proper fuller, and weight that balances in the hand. A decorative blade is often thin, light, and poorly finished at the edges. Pick the sword up and feel it. A weapon feels like a weapon. A wall ornament does not. Number 6. Number 6. A tarnished cavalry saber with a curved blade, a brass guard, and a leather grip that may be falling apart. It sits in an attic looking like a prop from a costume shop. Here is what the tarnish hides. An original 1860 pattern light cavalry saber from the Civil War era brings $800 to $2,000 or more, depending on maker and condition. A Confederate staff officer's sword was appraised at $31,000 to $33,000. The gap between those numbers and $20 is a single mark. Look at the ricasso, the flat section of the blade just below the guard. That is where the maker stamped their name. Ames, Mansfield and Lamb, Emerson and Silver, those are the names that move money. A Confederate maker's mark moves it further. I have watched a Civil War saber sell for the price of a lamp because nobody thought to read the blade. Before we get to the top 5, there is something about all of this that most people never stop to see. The blades that turn out to be worth real money almost never look like money. They sit in closets and attics and estate boxes, tarnished and forgotten, and the only thing separating a $20 wall hanger from a $2,000 cavalry saber is a handful of small details nobody ever teaches you to check. A mark on the ricasso, a signature on a tang, whether the scabbard still matches. Those signals are what I gathered into a guide called the Appraiser's Playbook, so you can read a blade the way a dealer reads it before you ever let anyone slide a number across the table. It is linked below if you want it. Now back to the rankings. Number 5, and here the mood shifts because from this point up, the stakes are serious. A sword with engraving on the blade or guard, script lettering, a name, maybe a dedication. It looks ceremonial, perhaps even gaudy. But read the words, because there is a canyon between a fraternal lodge sword with a member's name engraved for a ceremony and a military presentation sword engraved for valor in the field. A presentation sword custom crafted by the French maker Nicolas Boutet sold for $14,937. A presentation sword belonging to a decorated officer of the Mexican War brought $62,500 at auction. Here is the test. Read the engraving. If it names a military unit, a battle, or a rank, you may be holding something with documented provenance. If it names a lodge or fraternal order, the value is likely modest. The words on the blade are telling you exactly what the sword is. Most people never stop to read them. Number 4. Number 4, and this is the one that quietly costs families the most money, because the value is not in the blade alone. It is in the scabbard. A sword sold without its original scabbard loses a significant portion of its value because the scabbard carries its own markings, its own maker, and its own provenance. Here is where the money disappears. Someone keeps the sword and throws out the scabbard because the leather is cracked. Someone sells the bayonet and leaves the sheath in the box. The blade looks like the important half. It is not. The scabbard completes the record. Your test tonight. If you have a blade, find its scabbard. If they are still together, they stay together. In 20 years, I have watched more value destroyed by separating a blade from its scabbard than by any amount of rust. Number 3. Number 3, and this is a warning that has quietly ruined more pieces than all the rust in every attic in this country. Cleaning. Here is the figure that should stop your hand. A Civil War cavalry saber that has been aggressively polished to look new loses the very patina that authenticates it. The tarnish, the wear pattern, the undisturbed surface, those are not damage, they are proof. Collectors and auction houses want honest wear. The moment you wire brush a blade, sand a grip, or polish a guard to a shine, you have told the market that the sword has been altered and the price drops hard. Your test is restraint. If you find a blade worth investigating, do not clean it, do not oil it beyond a light protective wipe. Bring it exactly as it sits. The rust may look like a problem, but to a collector, the rust is the resume. Number two, and this is the one single skill that separates someone who knows what they are holding from someone who is guessing, the maker's mark. On a sword, it lives on the ricasso. On a bayonet, it lives on the spine or the ricasso. On a pocket knife, it lives on the tang of the main blade. That mark is the name, the date, and the price of everything you are holding. And most people never look for it because nobody ever told them it was there. Your test. Hold the blade to a raking light at a low angle and look for stamped letters, numbers, or a maker's logo pressed into the steel. A faded mark can sometimes be read by tilting the blade under a strong lamp until the shadows catch the impression. Read every mark before you accept any number. The blade without a name is a guess. The blade with a name is a fact. Number one, and it is almost certainly something you already own or your father did. Grandpa's old pocket knife. The plain one with the worn handle that has been sitting in a drawer, a tackle box, or a glove compartment for as long as you can remember. Most of them are worth $20 to $50. I will not inflate that. But here is the reframe every blade on this list was building toward. The value was never in how the knife looks. It was always in the stamp on the tang. A case-tested XX from the 1930s, in the right pattern with both blades intact, can bring $400. A Winchester Trapper from the same era can bring more. And a knife your family has held for 80 years carries something no new knife ever will: provenance. So here is the habit that runs backward through all 10 blades tonight. Read the mark. On the ricasso, on the tang, on the spine. Every blade you will ever hold is already telling you what it is worth. You only have to be willing to look. So before you let a single blade leave the house, before you let anyone tell you the old knives are just old knives, before you accept the first number someone offers you at the estate table, turn the blade to the light and read the mark. That is the whole skill. And now it is yours. If this changed the way you see the closet or the drawer you have been ignoring, a like tells the algorithm to carry this to another family, about to hand over their grandfather's collection for nothing. Subscribe if you want to walk through your whole house this way, room by room, because that is exactly what we do here. And tell me in the comments, what is the oldest blade in your house, and whose hands did it come from? I read every single one. Read the mark before anyone else gets the chance.